Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and I had to get this friend on my show because we started having a conversation and I just knew that I wasn't the only one who wanted to pick her brain on this. So there is a cornucopia of insights and information telling you what will support you with your health, with your hormones, with your skin, with your, longevity, your immunity, your youthfulness. That is one of the greatest industries in this reality is about health and beauty. And there are somehow always more surprising possibilities. And after hearing some of the success stories of my guests' clients and personal transformations that she's experienced with these specific, slightly taboo tools, I just knew I had to have her on the show. So hang tight. I'll reveal what I'm talking about in just a moment. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. All right, welcome back. So my guest today is Megan Macdonald, who brings together self-healing methods and a background in the academic study of ritual and belief. She has seen the most profound changes in her own health through two methods in particular, the self-healing Dalian method and the Shivambhu or urine therapy. She has a PhD in the performance of belief from Queen Mary University of London and is a published author. Welcome to the show, Megan Macdonald.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to be here. And I love how you tease that out at the beginning in terms of like, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, I said the words once. I'm just going to say them again. Urine therapy. Have you heard of urine therapy? Whoever's listening to this probably already saw that this was the title of the episode, but will you just give us an overview? What even is that?
So in in our time now, it's an ancient practice. Every indigenous culture that you could talk to would know about using urine medicinally for different things, for cleaning, for tanning hides. Like it's ancient. The Romans used it. It's all throughout history that it's been used. Right now, urine therapy generally applies to the practices that are either topical, so on the skin, or internal. So you can take it in different directions depending on what your goal is, what you're wanting to do with it. You mentioned the word Shivambhu as well, and Shivambhu is the Sanskrit word for urine medicine, urine practices. I don't know that they would have put the word therapy on it necessarily 5,000 years ago in India, but Chinese medicine also has terms for it. I don't know those specifically. And Shivambhu is fascinating because what it is a combination of Shiva, Lord Shiva, one of the greatest, most powerful gods in the tradition, Hindu and other traditions. And then Ambu, and Ambu is the Sanskrit word for water. So if you have Shiva and water, you have water of God, water of auspiciousness, because Shiva is the god of auspiciousness. Shiva is also the god of awareness and consciousness and destruction. So it's water of life in so many ways, but water of consciousness, water of awareness, divine water, holy water. And in the tradition of, well, now Ayurveda, but urine therapy or Shivambhu is called the mother of Ayurvedic medicine. So this predates the Ayurvedic medicine, and which is such an incredible, well, wealth library. It's such an incredible way to understand the human system to go into that. And so if this predates it, and they don't put the name of God on anything else. 5,000 years ago, they were not just picking names of gods and putting them on things that came out of our bodies. They didn't do that. Only urine got this name. And so we have to then take that wisdom and go, what did they see that they were willing to put the name of God on this? And my own experience of this water, and a lot of the people that I talk to, that I interview, that interview me, we will talk about our experiences. And people will often say when they start with urine therapy, they feel more connected, more in tune, more intuitive, more dialed in, more intelligent. Well, there's water of consciousness and awareness. And they'll also say they had a whole bunch of mucus leave their body really quickly. Well, there's the water of destruction. There's Shiva at work, both pulling out that which is not us, destroying that which we don't need, and raising the consciousness, the awareness, the vibration of the being immediately. So I see it in the name. I see why they would have done it. But just to break it down a bit, because we think urine, the word urine has negative connotations. It's often thought of as dirty. And yet here's this other tradition, which is giving it such an uplifted name.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. So you already mentioned topically and internally, and I think we can get into a little bit more of the technicalities of how it's used maybe a little bit later, but tell us a little bit more about what people are experiencing or who is turning to this as a alternative sort of remedy or solution or choice.
So it is often people who've tried everything else,
Mm,
because to a certain extent, people do hit that point where they're like, I will try anything if it will make me feel better.
mm,
And I get a lot of people with autoimmune issues, for example, who come. And there was one person who had gotten after 2020 with both being ill and also having some issues with the vaccination, which some people, just it didn't sit well with them the same way. She turned out she was sensitive. Um, she had autoimmune issues crop up, and they told her she had long COVID, and she was 43, 44 years old, and otherwise thought she was in good health beforehand. But suddenly, post COVID, she was not able to work on any schedule. Her health was all over the place. Her ability to eat anything, energy, it was just all gone. There was no rhythm, no pattern. And she did a lot of other things first. She tried diet, she tried supplements, she went to functional medicine doctors, she did all the things, and she made tiny steps forward. So, I mean, she was helping herself, but it never lasted and it was never a big jump. And one of the protocols that we agreed to do, and we can get into that later, like what you could do, but she started using 10 to 20 milliliters a day. That's all she was using, and she wasn't even drinking it. So we weren't, because she couldn't handle that. The first day, it felt so different in her body that she did double what I told her to. She did it every day that week, and I got these missives in my email about what was happening in her body. There was a shift, there was energy, there was something different, and she was writing all about it. About 6 weeks later, maybe it was a month, but I'll say 6, she went hiking 5 days in a row, 5 miles a day, and it didn't wreck her.
wow.
And she hadn't been able to do anything for a year and a half. 9 months later, she sends me an email and says her autoimmune symptoms are gone. Now, I don't know if they were 100% gone forever and ever, every single day of the year, but to be able to even write that, and somebody who is dealing with autoimmune isn't going to lightly say, my autoimmune symptoms are gone.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest thing that she shifted in her practice. I've had people show up who have had like constipation for the last decade. They start with Shivambhu, and immediately, like the first day, things start to move. People who had chronic sinus issues, and again, they start using Shivambhu, and they have to get the mucus out, which is uncomfortable. So there is a discomfort involved in a lot of healing, but that's the healing path. That whether you're doing spiritual healing, emotional healing, there's always some discomfort we have to go through to get to the more blissful parts. And so people with chronic sinus infections their whole lives will get back to me 2 winters later and say, nothing, I've got nothing, nothing's happening up there. It's quiet. Everything is calm. People with allergies, they've had seasonal allergies their whole lives, and using Shivambhu again in the sinuses, they'll say they've gotten rid of their seasonal allergies. Major digestive issues, not being able to eat certain things, or just being super sensitive to everything. Skin. One woman who started in August with me, and again, didn't want to drink it, wasn't ready for that. But we started her on again, like 5 milliliters, a teaspoon a day. And she, in the shower, she started just putting it on her skin in the shower. That was it. Well, I saw her 2 weeks ago, and she hiked her pant leg up over the knee and went, my skin isn't dry. It's been dry every winter my entire life, and my skin isn't dry. And
Wow.
all she was doing was putting this fresh urine on her legs in the shower.
Okay, I do want to get into the process. I want to get to that part. I'm gonna ask one more question before we get there. From like a sciencey or like theory even perspective, why does it work?
Right.
Because we're expelling things that our body can't absorb. Is it like a second shot at trying to absorb things that we didn't get the first time? Like, what's the theory or thought behind that?
Yes. And
Okay.
so I'll try to run these together quickly. In the womb, babies start peeing at about 8 weeks. Now, at 8 weeks, so early gestation is the first 8 weeks, late gestation is everything else. The tiny little thing that isn't even a baby yet, but like the embryo, has a urethra at around week 8, week 9. They start to pee. They don't even have a fully formed face yet. But this is part of what's so interesting. If the fetus doesn't start to pee at 8 to 9 weeks, the fetus dies. They need their own urine to grow their body. Why? There are stem cells in urine, and these stem cells are highly they are willing to differentiate. Am I going to say this right? There's undifferentiated and different. Anyway, they're undifferentiated. They're willing to be told what to do. The stem cells in urine are very happy to turn into many different types of tissue. Urine is also the Human Metabolome Database at the University of Alberta in Canada has a study. You can search metabolites, and they're searching metabolites. I say that it's like chemicals in the bodies, but they're calling them metabolites. They're dealing with the metabolome. So everything to do with your microbiome, your whole system. And they're studying blood, cerebrospinal fluid, urine, other things. You can filter for urine. They have over 3,150 metabolites that they have identified and detected in urine that are endogenous to the body. That means the body's producing it itself. It's not in your urine because you ate it. It's not in your urine because you breathed it in. It's because your body produces it. And this is including things like copper and zinc and B vitamins. And like I could go on. It's mind-blowing. Almost everything you could buy on a supplement shelf can be detected in your urine and produced by your body. If you go above and beyond that, then there's over 5,000 metabolites that they have detected in urine. Some of those then do come from other sources. When we drink our urine back in, if you go back to the baby in womb, the baby's plasma, because your urine is your filtered blood plasma. So you'll see a lot of people talking about urine. We'll talk about plasma. Your blood goes through the kidneys. The kidneys are filtering it with the best filtration system on the planet. What comes out the other side is incredibly clean. It just got filtered by the kidneys. If there's waste, like true waste that needs to go somewhere else, it goes through the liver, generally, like liver and kidneys, into the intestine. We have been taught, even doctors and nurses have been taught, that urine is a waste product. But if we go back to the baby in the womb, if urine was toxic, dangerous, or in any way problematic to the human system, it would not be in the amniotic fluid. That would be a major design flaw. And the longer we're in the amniotic fluid, like we start peeing at week 8, if we're full term, that's 7 months we're swimming in our urine. And by the time we're born, most of the amniotic fluid is our urine. So it's aging in there as well. So it is a soup of metabolites, vitamins, hormones, minerals, antibodies, and stem cells. It is this incredibly potent life force that is coming out of us every day. And if we take our cue from the baby, what does the baby look like and feel like and smell like when it comes out? It's ideal. And it's really upset that it was just forced to leave. So that whole idea of urine being bad is cultural. It's not biological.
Right. Or in smell also.
Yes. But
yeah.
The smell of urine comes when it can't absorb.
Ah.
So if we think about when an animal pees on concrete in a city and then it bakes in the sun, we smell the ammonia, which is breaking down. It's mostly ammonia smell, and ammonia can't absorb into concrete. So it breaks down and we smell it. When we pee in our bed, it can't absorb into cotton and nothing. The cotton can't do anything with it, or our sheets or our clothes when we were little. But that's only if it sits. If it sits, it's going to smell. But if you rub it into your skin, it fully absorbs, everything gets used. And the ammonia is part of urea breaking down. And urea is what's moisturizing. It's what's incredibly moisturizing to the skin. You can buy urea creams. Eucerin is one that's available in every single pharmacy, and Kinney Drugs, and name your thing across North America, they will have Eucerin cream. And it says right on it, urea. Well, urea is from your urine. So you can pay other people to put it in a cream, or you can use it yourself for free on your skin.
Yeah.
That was the first thing my teacher got me to do when she told me about it in 2013. But just to finish that thought of like, what is the reasoning, or like the argument for why it's really working. Part of it's coming down to that whole package of what's in it, where it's coming from, it's not waste. And then we could get into the electrical charge and the fact that it's giving us electricity and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, there we go. I get excited.
I love your enthusiasm for it, and I also love like how clear your knowing is of the research you've done, of the science behind it, and how that allows you to have like no shame at all in talking about something that is kind of taboo, like drinking your own pee, which most people would find, disturbing or repulsive, and yet you know what's possible, and thus like it has to be shameless because yeah, you've talked me into it already. And I guess this is me claiming in a public forum, I'm going to try this in some way, shape, or form. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there too. So let's get into the process of what are the options? Because you mentioned some of your clients are like, hell no, I'm not going to drink it, but that's okay because that's not the only route. So what are all the routes and, benefits and whatever?
Okay. So in go back to Ayurveda. Ayurveda will use every hole in the body, and they'll generally put oil in it because they're very big on lubricating all the different systems of the body. So same thing. You can put urine in any hole you have, depending on what you're trying to do. But the way that we generally want to start is just putting it on the skin and just getting over the ick factor and getting to see that your body likes it. That's one of the biggest things, is when you see your body likes it, then it's really hard to doubt it. It's really hard to also look at it with any sort of fear, because you're like, my body just produced something and it loves it. And the more I work with this medicine, with this liquid, the nicer it is. And so you see that the body's like, oh, you're going to use it? I'm going to make it so much nicer for you. Just hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
And it just starts producing these things. Oh, that's what I forgot to say before, right? About the smell. Just one other thought on the smell. When you walk in the forest, how many mammals live in the forest and are peeing on the ground every day? When urine, most mammal urine is similar in that sense. Like the ammonia is going to break down from mammal urine. If mammal urine didn't break down in the forest, it would stink.
Yeah.
So we don't need to be afraid of that. I just like that. I totally get it. It's
Yeah,
one of the
my partner
things.
uses urea or something in the garden, or I know that they sell it
Yes.
in our garden store, and he says, "Well, I just pee in a jug and pour it on the plants." So,
Yes,
yeah, we know
exactly.
that it's useful.
Yes, and it doesn't make anything smell. So same thing. When you put it on your skin, it's fully absorbing. It's in your bloodstream immediately. It's not like you can wash it off. It's been absorbed. So the test that my teacher, Shakti Mai, gave me, and she had been doing urine therapy for 30 years when I met her at my yoga teacher training, and she's now been doing it for over 40 years. She said, rub a few drops on the back of one hand every day for 3 days. Every time you pee, if you remember, just catch a drop or two, rub it on the back of one hand. Don't wash that hand with soap, because that'll just rip out the moisturizing effects. If you need to rinse your hand with a little bit of water because it just feels too weird, you can absolutely do that. But just see if you can do that as many times as you remember for 3 days. And then compare the backs of your hands. Now, if you have super moisturized skin, if you're like someone with oily skin, you're not going to see as much of a difference as I did. But pick a part of your body where you think you might see a difference from one side to the other. And I had the backs of my two hands were radically different. And that right away, I went, oh, my body likes it. So I started putting it on my hands. Then vanity kicks in, and I started putting it on my face, because I went, well, I want my face to look good. And my face had been dry my whole life. So I started doing that. And then I just started using it as a moisturizer in the shower every day. So I'd get out of the shower and I just rub my body down with it. And I can do my whole body with 1 to 2 tablespoons, either in a little dish where I just dip my fingers in and then I rub it on just like you'd rub on moisturizer, or I'll use a little spray bottle and I'll spray it on. If you put fresh in a bottle and you cap it, it will start to age and the ammonia will start to break down. And the next time you open that bottle, you will get a nose full of ammonia, just to warn people. But as long as you use the fresh and then you empty it out and rinse it out, that won't happen. It'll be absolutely fine. Aging's a whole other topic. Mm-hmm. So you can rub it on your body. You can use it to soak your feet. It's incredibly grounding. It helps pull the energy down. If you've got a headache, soak your feet in urine. Every piece of dead skin is going to come off of your feet. Your feet are going to be softer than they've ever been in your whole life. People say they sleep better when they soak their feet in urine, especially at night, if they're trying to, again, ground down, shift their energy, get out of their head. The urine is incredibly relaxing for the nervous system because you're bathing your nerve endings in urine. And it's so anti-inflammatory. It pulls inflammation out of the body faster than anything else I've ever seen. I used to do nasal rinses with salt water because I had voice coaches. And so I did singing and theater when I was a teenager, and they had me doing saltwater nasal rinses starting as a teenager. I need a mug of salt water to get out of my sinuses. The amount of mucus I can get out of my sinuses with a mug, I can get out with 1 tablespoon in each side of my nose with urine.
So do you use a neti pot or something to do that?
I am very basic. I take my palm and I just pour about what I can hold in my palm, which is about a tablespoon. And I block one nostril and I tip my head and I snort it up my nose and tip my head back. And I hold it there for about 30 seconds till I can feel it draining down the back of my throat. And you either let it drain into your stomach because it's draining in there all day anyway, or you spit it out. And then I do the other side. And if I'm really feeling fancy, I do it twice.
Okay.
And it's amazing. For the next, like yesterday I did it, and for half an hour afterwards, my sinuses were just draining. But I just needed 1 tablespoon in each side and I was done. You can use a dropper and you can put it in your eyes as eye drops. It's way better than any synthetic eye drop. You can snort it up the nose. If someone had, so people often ask me if I were to say, what are the top things someone should do, that's really hard. But if I said the top 3, it would be rub the whole body with urine, snort it, and in some way, drops, snorting, neti pot, all work. It doesn't matter. There's some slight differences depending on what you're trying to do, but any way to get it up your nose is fine. And the third thing would be basti, which is putting a tiny bit in the rectum. And that is the thing, the people that I mentioned, the one who had the autoimmune issues shift, and my friend who just recently started in August, but said, I can't drink it. We went with the rectum, because when you put something in the rectum, you access the bloodstream really quickly. It's not going through the digestive system, but you're still sort of drinking it. You're getting all the benefits of having drunk it almost. So I'm just going to say snorting, if you're only going to do like 1 or 2 things, snorting is so good. And it changes so much in your system. Because
I want to ask one more question about that. So usually I drink a lot of water, so I pee many times a day. And, the first pee after you wake up is a little more pungent, rich, we could say. Do you recommend using the first pee of the day, or do you first pee and then go for the second, third, whatever pee of the day?
For people who are starting, I say, do the thing that will work.
Okay.
If the pee that you want to drink is mid-afternoon when you've had something that you like, or you just notice there's a big difference around like 10 a.m. is really appealing, go with the most appealing. Do not make this difficult. It's already difficult. Make it as easy and enjoyable as possible. When the first pee you interact with will never be the nicest, because your body, you haven't been giving it that feedback, that input. When we start working with our urine, we start a conversation and a feedback loop, and it's information. It's a huge amount of information that the body has access to again. It works sort of homeopathically in that if there is something, if we're fighting a cold, the antibodies for that are in the urine. If there's even if we're in a negative thought process, the imprint of the thoughts that we're dealing with are in the urine, and we're drinking that back in, and the body either goes, more of that please, or less of that, thank you very much. But the body has this intelligence. It knows what to do with this. And so just by drinking it back in, we're saying to the body, I want you to have this conversation with me, and I'm giving you what you produced. And then the body starts making nicer and nicer urine. There's a woman that I've interviewed a few times on my YouTube channel, and she looks at the crystalline structures that form in urine. And I have 2 talks up. Well, I guess there's at least 3 up there, but there's 2 where I'm just talking with her and she's showing her slides. And there's one woman who works with bees. And in this woman's aged urine, so it's not the fresh, it's been aged for a little bit, this crystalline structure is like honeycomb.
Whoa.
And this woman works with bees. So when I say there's information, this is what I'm talking about, that even the crystalline structures that we can see in our urine correspond so uniquely to who we are and how we are being and what our frequency is. And it's like the energetics of what we're putting back in. We are feeding ourselves a fourth phase plasma water. Different people know by different names: easy water, exclusion zone water, H320. It is charged with an electrical ion, like it has an electrical charge. If you're just drinking tap water, it doesn't have that charge to it.
Yeah.
And so when we start drinking the urine, we're charging our system, and that starts to have an effect. So you can, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love how this is already coming back to the energetics and like the attunement, the intuition, the way that we are designed to like the answers are already within you. And it's like, well, maybe they really fucking are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
but
is
I love
it.
that this showed up, like that you showed up and this conversation showed up as I've been on like a serious tangent over the past year with water and elevating my like intentions in water, structured water, hydrogen water, ionized water, alkaline water, like all these different tools and modalities and whatever. And then this showed up and I'm like, oh shoot. That's what's
So,
next, I guess.
oh yeah. So, and the conversation I had with Fiona that I just put up yesterday, she took aged, like a tiny bit of aged urine, and she shows the difference going tap water, spring water, bottled water. And what happens when she puts a tiny bit of her aged urine in it and how it restructures all three of those waters immediately. It's so fascinating. So
Wow.
yes, we are water beings, and water is incredibly powerful. And we're in the age of Aquarius, who is the water bearer. And so of course, new information is coming out about the water and how water is so impactful, and about communication, how we're in flow, how we're able to be present to what is and have less resistance,
Yeah,
because you
that's
can't resist the
fascinating.
flow of water. But I feel like I haven't. I know people are probably like, I was trying to write down a list of how to use this stuff, and you stopped talking about it. But basically, like, put it in your belly button overnight, swish with it, gargle with it, use it as your toothpaste, put it in your ears, or people can put it in their ears. I don't want to tell anyone to put it anywhere in that sense.
Yeah.
Ears are also difficult. If people have had ear pain, that can pull out old ear pain. The caveat with this is it will go find things that are hiding. My teacher always said urine goes hunting. So I always put the caveat in my experience. This is powerful. This is immediate. You don't know what's going to happen first. If anyone wants to go into this, do it very mindfully. And if you can get a book or watch some video, like do your research before you jump into this, because it's going to surprise you in one
Yeah.
way, shape, or form. And then I mentioned the idea of basti. So this is these tiny implants. You can do enemas. Normally, enemas are very drying, but when you use urine, you're putting the highest quality water back in, and it's bioavailable to your rectum, colon, intestine, and you're actually hydrating it. So you're not dehydrating yourself with an enema. Like, it goes on and on. Compresses, goggles so you can do an eye soak with
Yeah.
putting swim goggles on. I mean,
There's a
it's
lot of options. And I think that that is a really good caveat and thing to mention too is start slow and low because as with any new regimen that you introduce into your body, your reality, you don't know what's going to show up. So don't like overdo it. Don't start guzzling 80 ounces of urine every day. Like start with a
yes,
teaspoon in
yeah, or a
some
drop.
place. Yeah,
Yes.
or a drop. And also, if you're curious about this, Megan helps people do this in a safe and methodical and supported way. So we're going to get to the part where we ask you, how can people get a hold of you? Because I know I can feel the people leaning in already, but I want to just have you speak to one more thing. We're going to go slightly over time today because it's worth it. The one concern I had that I brought up to you when we first had this conversation was, what if I'm not vegan? What if I don't eat well? What if I have, what if people have substance abuse habits and their kidneys or their livers are being taxed every day? Like, what about those people?
So there's no reason not to start it based on diet. Urine will tell you right away what you're eating, and you will go, whoa, that's potent stuff. And it's one of the fastest ways people change their diets, where they stop eating as much fried food, as much sugar, as many things that are acidic, because the urine gets nicer when they eat things that are fresher, like plants. If they eat more plants, the urine gets nicer. So there's more detail in there, but there's a basic answer. Don't worry about it. Start slow, and your urine will talk to you and tell you what it likes. When you eat this, it likes it. So you'll start doing more of that. When you're dealing with addiction, urine helps people get over sugar addictions. It helps people get over watching too much television addiction. It helps with any behavior that's out of balance because urine helps to rebalance us. That being said, if you're on a lot of medication, start topically. If you're dealing with drug or alcohol issues, start topically. See how it helps you, how it makes you feel. There's nothing wrong with soaking your feet, rubbing it on your body, putting it on your scalp. Like there's so many ways to use it. And if you're on medication, but you really want to take it internally, wait a number of hours. Some people say overnight. I had a friend who took thyroid medication every morning. She would drink her morning urine and then take her thyroid medication. And then she wouldn't do internal application till the next morning again. She might rub it on her skin any time of the day. If you're taking medications more often than once a day, some people wait 8 hours and then they go, okay, I feel fine. Then they do 6 hours, then they do 4, then they do 2. Some people, they've weaned themselves off of medications because the urine starts the feedback loop in the body and starts producing the thing that wasn't being produced.
Wow.
So, but it depends on why you're taking medication to begin with. Like, is this something you can wean off of or not? And that's something you have to know with your health providers. But there's many ways to do it, but topical is just not a problem.
Okay. Start topically. Yeah. And I just want to ask you personally, do you use the first pee of the day?
I do.
Okay.
I always take at least one sip of it. But like over the holidays, I was eating the holiday food and the traditional whatever that I wanted to eat. I am vegetarian, vegan. I don't eat meat anymore, but I will still eat cheese or I will, depending on what's going on. Boy, could I tell the next morning, but I will always be like, I'll take at least a sip because by doing the sip, I'm continuing the conversation. I'm giving my body the feedback so that it knows what happened. So, and if it's nice this morning, it was great. So I drank the whole thing.
Okay. Oh, this is fascinating. Okay, so what are the places that people should follow for more information, or how can somebody actually get on the phone with you to be a client? Because I imagine there's somebody out there that's like, I want to do this and I don't want to do it by myself.
Yeah. So I do have a website. It's expansionhealing.ca because I'm in Canada. So just the two words expansion and healing together. I'm also, and there's a contact form there. My email's on there. My YouTube is where I put up the newest videos that I'm doing. And that is Megan Macdonald, PEI. So Megan is Megan, a simple version, and Macdonald is MAC Donald, and then PEI is for Prince Edward Island. So letter P, letter E, letter I, and that's where my videos are. Everything else is like Instagram is at Expansion Healing, Telegram is at Expansion Healing. And yeah, so there's that. Awesome. Hopefully we'll cover it. If people can't find me after that, though, I'm sure they'll ask you.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely if this conversation piqued your interest, go subscribe to that YouTube channel and just binge watch some of Megan's videos. And definitely go to her website to get on her books if you're interested in getting support in this kind of adventure, especially if you've tried everything and nothing has been working and you're fed up and you're like, why the hell not do one thing that could change everything? Which, yeah, there's no reason not to experiment. You're making this substance every single day, every few hours in my case.
Right. And it's free. Once you know how to use it, it's yours. It's your medicine for life.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
we'll put all those links in the show notes of this episode as well so that you can easily click them or subscribe to this show or maybe click the little like or comment right now so you can easily get back to it. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. You've shared so much wisdom. We went over, I just don't often go over on these episodes. I don't mind when I do, but it just speaks to how much like wealth of information that you've shared and also like how interesting this conversation has been. But are there any last words of wisdom that you want to leave people with?
Oh, just even that you listened, it shows that you have an open mind to something that all of society is saying this isn't going to happen. And so just like congratulations on listening to something that might have made you a little uncomfortable today. And thank you, Molly, for hosting it. And absolutely, like if you haven't already liked and subscribed to Molly's podcast, like this is the time because she's bringing up more stuff. And clearly the water information is going to keep coming.
Totally. Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan. And thank you everyone out there for watching and listening. This has been fascinating. As we said, do subscribe. Also, if you have some health friend or someone who's maybe on a health journey right now, forward this episode to them. Say, hey, isn't this weird? What do you think? Maybe you could even find a friend who wants to embark on this journey with you. I know I'm already enrolling my partner in playing in this adventure together. So, whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action because you are here for a reason. And we'll see you next time.